Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It started on a regular Thursday evening, inside the quiet kitchen of our two-story home in Richmond. Rain tapped against the window panes, the smell of sautéed garlic hung in the air, and the soft hum of the dishwasher buzzed in the background. But my mind was nowhere near dinner. Amber leaned against the counter, her robe slightly open, glass of wine in one hand, that familiar sly smile playing on her lips. "Why don't you come closer?" she whispered, tracing the rim of the glass with her finger. I didn't move. Instead, I stood stiff at the sink, back half turned to her, voice low but sharp as a blade. "I don't want intimacy with you after your lover." She froze. For the first time in years, I saw the truth slap her in the face, not with my hand, not with shouting, but with that one line. "What? What are you talking about?" Her smile faltered, twisting awkwardly into confusion. "Ethan, are you serious right now?" "I'm not inventing anything," I said, finally turning to face her. "Your behavior has written every sentence of this story. I just decided to start reading it out loud." Her wine glass clinked against the counter a little too hard. "You're paranoid. You've always been dramatic, but this?" She let out a shaky laugh. This is insane." My arms folded. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even blink. "You think locked phones, late-night walks, and private chuckles over text go unnoticed? I'm not stupid, Amber." She pushed off the counter and walked toward me, her voice climbing. "Oh, so now I can't have friends? You're controlling now? Is that what this is about? You feel neglected, so you're building stories in your head?" I stared at her like a man watching something he used to believe in fall apart. "No, I feel betrayed. That's very real." Her face twisted. "Who told you something? Did someone say something to you?" "No one had to," I said quietly. "You did." Amber threw her arms in the air, pacing now. "Unbelievable. You're turning our entire marriage into some conspiracy because I've been going on walks and texting? You need help. You think I'm blind?" I stepped forward once. "Or just weak." She stopped, arms crossed tight over her chest, her robe cinched now like armor. "You don't have proof. You're grasping." "No," I said, steady cold. "I'm finished grasping. I'm just done pretending I don't see it." For a second, the only sound was the ticking of the kitchen clock and the soft hiss of water boiling on the stove. Then she whispered, almost pleading, "You're gonna throw us away over suspicions?" "I'm not throwing anything," I said. "You did. The night you stopped choosing me." And just like that, I walked past her and reached for my jacket. No yelling, no tears, just truth, raw and undressed. Because that moment, that was the end of the pretending, and the start of something colder, something sharper. My name's Ethan. I'm 39. I work as an assistant manager at a local auto parts store in Richmond. Nothing glamorous. I live in the kind of neighborhood where people wave from driveways and mow their lawns on Saturdays. I made grilled cheese on Sundays. Cleaned the gutters twice a year. Simple life. Quiet. But tonight, my kitchen wasn't quiet anymore. It was the epicenter of a betrayal I didn't ask for, but I could feel coming like a thunderstorm 3 days out. And trust me, this storm was just beginning. 2 days passed. Not a word spoken between us. Amber moved around the house like everything was fine, humming while she folded laundry, asking if I wanted her to pick up anything from the store. Like nothing happened. Like she hadn't stood in the kitchen 2 nights ago and accused me of being delusional for confronting her with the truth she knew she couldn't deny. But I didn't bite. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't demand anything. I just watched, like a man looking at something already dead, but still walking. Every night after work, I came home, showered, changed, ate quietly, sat on the couch. No TV, no music, just silence thick enough to feel. And she hated it. Amber would peek at me over her book, eyes scanning for signs, anything to work with. But I gave her nothing. She would linger near the kitchen, accidentally brushing past me, acting like her old self, like she could seduce her way back into control. But I wouldn't look at her. Not once. I wasn't playing anymore. And she knew it. The morning after that fight, I stopped taking my coffee at home. Instead, I drove 5 blocks down to a cafe tucked between a barber shop and a secondhand bookstore, Jackson Street Cafe. I'd been there 100 times before, but now it felt different. Like neutral ground. The bell above the door jingled when I walked in. The waitress, Kelsey, a college student with sleepy eyes and a quick smile, greeted me like always. "Hey, Ethan." "Usual?" I nodded. Yeah, thanks. I took the booth in the back, the one near the window where I could see the street. People passing, living, moving forward. I watched an older couple walk hand in hand, their fingers laced like it was still the first year of their love. I watched a kid skateboard past, hoodie half-zipped, earbuds in, a smile on his face like the world hadn't tried to bite him yet. I sat there, sipping my black coffee, letting the warmth hit the back of my throat and settle the cold that had built in my chest. My reflection in the glass didn't lie. I looked tired. Not from work. Not from sleeplessness. From betrayal. It had hollowed me in a way I couldn't fully explain. Like my center had been scooped out, and I was walking around with a shell and some habits. That day, I didn't text anyone back. Not Marcus, my old college buddy, who kept asking when we'd go fishing again. Not my sister, who always sensed when something was off. I wasn't ready to speak yet. What would I even say? That the woman who promised forever suddenly turned into a stranger who dodged questions and flirted with lies? That I could feel her slipping away months before I could prove it? No. So I sat in that booth, afternoon sun cutting through the blinds, casting stripes across my coffee and hands. I stared out at the street like it held answers. Like somewhere between the steps of strangers, I'd find the courage to say the one thing I hadn't said aloud yet. I'm alone now, and that's okay. Because this silence, it's not surrender, it's preparation. It was around 8 p.m. when she finally asked. The living room was dimly lit, just a soft glow from the lamp beside the couch and the flicker of candles she'd lit earlier, trying to set a mood, I suppose. She curled up at the far end of the sectional, her legs tucked under her, holding a throw pillow she didn't need. I sat in the recliner, thumbing through an old paperback I wasn't really reading. For a while, it was quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge and the occasional rustle of pages as I flipped them without thought. Then, without looking at me, she asked the question like she was commenting on the weather. Why have you been so off lately? I didn't look up. I didn't pretend to misunderstand. I mean, she went on, forcing a little chuckle, you barely talk to me. You've been sleeping on the couch. You leave every morning like we're strangers. It's starting to feel weird. I set the book down slowly, pressing my thumb into the cover. Then I looked at her. Calm, cold, clear. I'm preparing for a bachelor's life. She blinked, like she hadn't heard me correctly. What? I didn't flinch. You asked. That's your answer. Her smile faded. That tight little curve she'd been wearing like armor dropped instantly. Is that supposed to be a joke? She asked, voice lower now, eyes narrowing. No, I said, folding my hands in my lap. It's not a joke. I've been adjusting, getting used to silence, cooking for one, sleeping alone, that kind of thing. Her face changed. A flicker of real fear passed through her eyes, and for the first time, she didn't have a comeback ready. No spin, no sarcasm, just silence. She leaned forward a little, the pillow still clutched to her chest like it was some kind of shield. You think I've done something unforgivable, she said slowly, testing the waters. But Ethan, I haven't done anything. I haven't crossed any lines. I tilted my head slightly. No? So the late walks, the locked phone, the whispering in the hallway, the change in perfume, all just coincidence? I needed space, she said quickly. You were distant first. You stopped paying attention. I almost laughed. Almost. But I kept my expression neutral. I didn't stop paying attention, Amber. I just stopped reacting. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Ethan, you're acting like you've already left. I stood slowly, the leather creaking beneath me. I haven't left yet, but I've been imagining what that might look like. And honestly, I shrugged. It doesn't scare me. A sharp inhale. That's cruel. No, I said, walking toward the hallway. What's cruel is pretending everything's fine when you've been emotionally somewhere else for months. She sat there, frozen. The air between us was heavy with unspoken things. For the first time, her mask cracked. Not shattered, but cracked. Do you still love me? She asked, almost a whisper. I paused at the hallway, one hand on the frame. I'm not sure what love looks like anymore, but I know what respect feels like. And that's been missing for a long time. I left her sitting there, the candlelight flickering across her stunned face. And in the quiet that followed, I heard it, the soft sound of a pillow falling to the floor. No yelling, no slamming doors, just a shift, a subtle, quiet shift. But that's how things break sometimes. Not in explosions, but in the sound of a woman finally realizing the grip she thought she had is slipping. It was a Tuesday night, air thick with summer humidity, crickets chattering in the distance like they didn't care the world was falling apart behind our closed door. Amber asked if we could sit outside. I didn't say yes. I just opened the screen door and stepped onto the porch. She followed with 2 mugs of tea, hers chamomile, mine untouched. We sat across from each other in those old rocking chairs we bought at that flea market in Ashland. I used to love this porch. Now it felt like neutral territory, like the space where a ceasefire is declared, but the war hasn't ended. Amber tucked her feet under her, trying to look soft, harmless. Her eyes were glassy, and I didn't know if it was the porch light or something brewing beneath the surface. She sipped her tea and said, "Can we please talk? Really talk?" I didn't answer, just looked at her. After a beat, she set the mug down with trembling fingers. "I didn't mean for things to get weird," she said, her voice small. I don't know. I got caught up in things. I've been stressed. Work's been a mess. And when I walk at night, it's not what you think. I just needed space to think. That's all." I nodded slowly, as if that explanation wasn't paper thin. She tried again. "You've been so distant lately. It made me feel like you didn't care. I know I should have said something sooner, but I didn't know how." Her lip quivered. Her voice cracked in just the right places. She'd done this before. I took a slow breath. "You know what's interesting about patterns?" I said, folding my arms. "Once you notice them, they're hard to unsee." Amber blinked. "What are you talking about?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "The late-night walks started exactly 6 weeks ago. Right after that work conference you said was exhausting. Then came the locked phone. Before that, you used to leave it charging on the counter. Now it's glued to you. You take it to the bathroom. You sleep with it under your pillow." She swallowed hard, eyes flicking toward the door like she wanted to run. "And the texting, the giggling. Amber, you don't laugh like that when we're watching comedies together. But suddenly you're laughing alone on the porch at 11 p.m. Over what?" "Memes." "I was talking to Carly," she said quickly. "She sends stupid reels all the time." "Then let me see the thread," I said calmly. She froze. There it was. The moment. That subtle freeze in the muscles around her mouth. The delay. The falter. "Ethan, this isn't court," she whispered. "No," I said. "It's our life. And I'm just listing things I noticed. That's all." She tried to smile. It didn't land. "You're acting like I've cheated." "I'm acting like a man who knows when he's being lied to." Tears filled her eyes then. Real ones, maybe. Or rehearsed. At this point, I couldn't tell. "You're pushing me away," she said, voice trembling. "You've already made up your mind." I sat back, rocking once in my chair. The porch light buzzed above us like it couldn't stand the silence either. "I'm not pushing you away," I said. "You've just been walking in the opposite direction for months. I'm only now standing still." She reached across the space between us, fingertips brushing my knee. "Please, I don't want to lose you." I looked down at her hand, then back up at her face. "I'm not lost, Amber. I'm just done chasing someone who keeps pretending she's not running." She drew her hand back slowly, her face crumpling, not all at once, but in stages. Like even her denial had started to lose strength. The crickets kept singing, and I just watched her, silent and still, as the mask she'd worn so tightly finally started to slip. It happened the next evening, like a peace offering plated in grease and guilt. I came home to the smell of fried chicken, crispy, peppery, exactly how she knew I liked it. The dining table was set properly for once. Candles, wine already poured, soft music humming low from her phone. Amber stood by the stove, wiping her hands on a towel, wearing that careful smile, the one she used when she wanted something but didn't want to say it yet. "Dinner's almost ready," she said lightly. "I thought we could sit together." I took off my jacket, hung it up, didn't comment. We sat across from each other, candlelight dancing between us like it was trying to soften the edges. She watched me closely as I picked up my fork. "You didn't have to do all this," I said. "I wanted to," she replied quickly. "Things have been tense. I thought maybe if we just talked like normal people." I cut into the chicken, the crunch loud in the quiet room. "Normal people don't cook apology dinners without apologizing," I said calmly. Her smile flickered. "I'm trying, Ethan." "To do what?" I asked. "Reset the mood? Or avoid the truth?" She picked up her wine glass, took a small sip, then set it down untouched. "You always do this," she said softly. You corner me with words. No, I replied. I asked direct questions. You dance. She inhaled slowly. What do you want me to say? I met her eyes. Didn't raise my voice. I want you to tell me who he is. Her hand tightened around the stem of the glass. There is no he, she said automatically. I didn't respond. Just waited. Seconds stretched. Candle wax dripped. Finally, her shoulders sagged. Okay, she whispered. There is someone. I nodded once. Go on. It's not what you're thinking, she rushed. Nothing physical. We didn't cross that line. But you stood close to it, I said. She swallowed. We talked. A lot. He listened. That's the admission? I asked. You connected with another man behind my back. Her eyes filled. I didn't plan it. It just happened. That's never true, I said quietly. She looked down at her plate. You stopped paying attention, she murmured. You were always tired. Always distracted. I felt invisible. I set my fork down gently. I worked extra hours to keep this house running, I said. I asked you how your day was every night. I showed up. She shook her head. Not like before. So you replaced conversation with secrecy? I asked. She reached across the table. I was lonely. You were married. I replied, pulling my hand back. Tears slid down her cheeks now, silent and steady. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said. And then you tried to tell me it was my fault. She covered her face. I was scared you'd leave. I stood up slowly. You should have been scared to lose my trust, I said. The candles kept burning. The chicken went cold. And for the first time, she stopped pretending this was something we could just talk our way out of. We sat in silence after her confession, the kind that doesn't clear the air, it thickens it. Amber wiped at her cheeks with the edge of a napkin, but I didn't offer comfort. I couldn't. The weight between us wasn't going anywhere. She sniffled. I'm just glad we're talking about this. I leaned forward slowly, my hands folded in front of me, eyes steady on hers. You said I stopped paying attention. She looked back, nodded, hopeful. Yeah, I mean, that's not an attack, Ethan. I felt distance. That's not true, I said, my voice low and even. I never stopped caring. I didn't vanish. I didn't disappear at night. I didn't put passwords on everything and laugh into my phone like a teenager. She blinked, stunned at the calmness behind the words. I was here, I continued. Making coffee, replacing light bulbs, asking about your day, listening. I was here when you were gone, Amber. Her jaw clenched. I didn't go anywhere. Then give me his number. That stopped her cold. What? She asked, breath catching. I want his number. Her mouth opened, then closed. She shifted in her seat. I don't think that's necessary. It is to me. Ethan, there's nothing going on now. It's done. I didn't ask if it's over. I asked for his number. I don't have it anymore, she said too quickly. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. You do. No. You do. I repeated, voice firm now. We both know it. Just say you won't give it to me. She looked down, shaking her head. This isn't fair. You're acting like I betrayed you physically. You betrayed me emotionally, I said. And now you're trying to hide the proof. I'm not hiding anything, she snapped. Then give me the number. I said I don't have it, Ethan. Her voice bounced off the dining room walls. Loud, shrill, shaking at the edges. I stood up calmly. What are you doing? She asked, standing with me. Packing. Ethan, I turned toward the hallway. You don't want to tell the truth. That's your choice. Mine is to stop living in this house like I believe you. She followed me down the hall, footsteps frantic behind mine. Wait, can we just talk more? Please, can we slow down? I gave you that chance, I said, pulling my overnight bag from the closet. I gave you weeks. I asked, I waited, I watched. You want to control the version of the truth I get, and I'm not interested anymore. You're throwing this all away, over something that wasn't even. Don't, I said, cutting her off as I grabbed my toiletries. Don't finish that sentence. She stood at the doorway, hands trembling, eyes red and wet. Please, just stay. We'll figure it out. I zipped the bag, slung it over my shoulder, and looked at her for one long moment. I'm done figuring out lies, Amber. And I walked past her, through the house I once called home, down the steps of the porch we used to sit on, and out into the night. Not angry, not yelling, just gone. If you're enjoying the story, please hit the like button. Marcus had a one-bedroom place on the 4th floor of a converted brick warehouse downtown. Exposed pipes, no elevator, and a view of nothing but the parking lot. It was cramped, smelled faintly of old takeout and gym socks, but it was a roof. He didn't ask questions when I showed up with my overnight bag and eyes that hadn't slept in days. Just pulled a blanket out of the closet, tossed me the remote, and cracked open 2 beers. That's the kind of friend he was. Didn't need the backstory to know the storm had landed. You stay as long as you need, he said, voice low, watching the game but not really watching it. Thanks, man. But sleeping on a worn leather couch with a busted spring wasn't the hardest part. It was the waiting. I wasn't done. Something in me, it wouldn't sit still. The part of me that used to trust her, that part was dead. But the part that needed the full truth, that was alive and restless. So, the next morning, I started watching. I still had access to our shared calendar. She hadn't bothered to change the login. Dentist appointments, hair trims, and something vague. Meeting 6 p.m. every Thursday for the past 5 weeks. No location. Just that. I parked across from the corner coffee shop she claimed to love working in lately and waited. At 5:59, she walked out. Hair done. Dressed like she was going somewhere that wasn't for a latte. She checked her phone, then turned the corner on foot, and got into a dark blue sedan that pulled up without slowing. I couldn't see his face clearly, but he leaned over and kissed her cheek like it was routine. Like they'd done it 100 times. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles whitening, but I didn't move. I wasn't going to blow it. Not yet. The next day, I followed her again. Same routine. Same guy. But this time, I followed them out of the city. They pulled into a quiet residential neighborhood, nice enough to have trimmed hedges, but not enough for gates. I parked a block down and watched as they stepped into a 2-story beige house with green shutters. No hesitation. She had the garage code. And then the door closed behind them. I waited there for over an hour. Then another car pulled into the driveway. A woman got out, tall, maybe mid-30s, holding a gym bag and a ring of keys. She entered through the front door with ease. Not a visitor. I watched through the windshield, something sinking in my gut. When the door opened again, Amber was gone. The guy stood in the doorway, kissed the woman on the cheek, took her bag. He smiled. Like this was normal. Because to him, it probably was. He was married too. And just like that, the betrayal got heavier. Not just because she lied. Not just because she chose him. But because she picked someone who was playing the same game. Now it wasn't just infidelity. It was a pattern. And I was done being a piece in it. The next morning was overcast, that muted gray sky that made the world feel quieter than usual. I was parked across the street from his house before the sun was fully up, watching dew cling to the grass on his front lawn. I didn't plan some big speech. I didn't need one. I just waited. At 7:42 a.m., the garage door creaked open, and he stepped out with a gym bag slung over his shoulder and a travel mug in hand. Dressed in a crisp polo and running shoes. Hair wet. Shaving nick on his chin. He looked normal, like he hadn't just spent the night with someone else's wife. I stepped out of my car and crossed the street with quiet, measured steps. He paused when he saw me, blinked, then forced a polite smile like I was a neighbor coming to borrow a rake. Can I help you? I stopped a few feet away. Yeah, I think you already have. His face shifted, smile fading. His hand slowly lowered the mug. Do I know you? I nodded once. You've been seeing my wife. He swallowed. Hard. I'm sorry, who? Amber, I said flatly. His mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Then, oh God. He looked over his shoulder, like someone might be watching, then back at me. Look, I didn't know. I mean, she told me she was separated. I didn't blink. She wasn't. He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting everywhere, but at mine. We never. Okay, we didn't mean for it to go this far. We talked. That's all, mostly. It started innocent. They always say that. I swear, he said, voice shaking. It wasn't serious. I mean, she said she wasn't being seen. She made it sound like everything was already over. It wasn't, I said again. His voice dropped to a whisper. Does your wife know you're here? No. He looked down at the pavement, suddenly very aware of his sneakers and the cracks in his driveway. I'll stop, he said quietly. I swear. I'll end it. I shouldn't have let it go on this long. You shouldn't have let it start. That was all I said. And I turned. Walked back across the street. Calm. Silent. He didn't follow. Didn't try to explain. He just stood there in his driveway, shrinking into himself. I slid into my car, started the engine, and pulled away without ever looking back. No threats. No shouting. Just the truth, dropped at his feet like a stone. And my silence? It weighed more than anything I could have screamed. I didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't even pause at the curb like I used to. Just pulled into the driveway of the house we used to share. Same cracked concrete. Same faded shutters. Same hydrangeas she never watered. Everything looked familiar. Everything felt foreign. The key still worked. The door creaked open and there she was, standing in the kitchen in yoga pants and a loose tee, hair pinned up like she hadn't expected anyone. She froze when she saw me, then smiled too quickly, too wide. "Ethan," she said like I'd been gone a weekend, not a lifetime. "What are you doing here?" I walked past her, silent, steady, placed the thick manila envelope on the table beside the fruit bowl. She followed, hesitant. "Is something wrong?" I pulled out a chair. "Saturday." Then met her eyes across the silence. "I saw him yesterday." Her face went still. Then, slowly, she tried to recover. "Saw who?" "Don't." She crossed her arms. "Ethan, I don't know what." "Your lover," I said, calm but sharp. "The man whose car you've been slipping into every Thursday. The one with a wife of his own. The one who looked like he'd seen a ghost when I knocked on his door." She stared at me, blinking. I continued, voice even. "He admitted everything. Swore it was just emotional. That it never got physical. He also promised it was over." I tapped the envelope. "This is, too." She looked down at it like it might burn her fingers. "You brought papers?" she asked, her voice suddenly brittle. "Divorce," I said. "Filed yesterday. I already signed." Her breath caught. Her face paled. "You can't be serious." "I am. But, Ethan, we can talk. We can fix this." "Your lover left you yesterday," I added. Quietly, cleanly. The color drained from her face completely. "What?" "He's done. He ended it. I think I shook him. So now you're back to square one." She stepped back like she'd been hit. And then, just like that, the mask fell away. The fake smile. The tremble. The performance. Gone. What came next was fire. "You smug piece of..." She didn't even finish the sentence, just slammed her palm against the table so hard the envelope jumped. "I made one mistake. You made dozens," I snapped. "Lies. Secrets. Hiding a second life in our house. That's not one mistake. That's who you became. You emotionally abandoned me. I cooked for you. You weren't the same. You never gave me the chance to be," I said. "You just walked away. You just didn't tell me." She grabbed a plate from the drying rack, one of the good ones, the one we got for our anniversary, and threw it against the wall. It shattered. I didn't flinch. "You want to make me the villain?" I asked. "Fine. Call me cold. Call me distant. But don't call me blind. Not anymore." She stood there, chest heaving, mascara smudged under her eyes. "I gave you everything," she spat. "No," I said quietly. "You gave him the part of you that was mine." The next dish flew harder, a wine glass this time, exploding against the floor tiles. "I hate you," she whispered. "You hate being caught," I replied. "You were supposed to fight for me. I was supposed to be your husband," I said. "You didn't want that." Silence hung, thick and electric. Then she dropped into a chair, breathing hard, rage turning to disbelief. "So that's it? That's the end?" I stood slowly. "No, that's the beginning," I said. "For me." I left the envelope there on the table and walked out, the sound of broken glass crunching under my shoes, each step feeling like a release. Behind me, the house finally felt honest. Ugly, loud, wrecked, but no longer pretending. It took less than a week after the papers were finalized for Amber to start her campaign. First came the vague posts, those tired, half-baked quotes about choosing peace over pain and letting go of toxicity. Then the not-so-subtle ones. A blurry selfie with red-rimmed eyes captioned, "You think you know someone," followed by a dozen broken heart emojis. She didn't tag me, of course. She didn't have to. People knew. We had mutual friends. A small town. A shared history. Our names didn't need to be in neon for the message to land. She wanted to control the story. Frame herself as the wounded woman, discarded by a cold, distant husband who stopped showing affection and withheld love as punishment. Her words. Word for word. It might have worked if people hadn't been watching the slow unravel for months. The first comment that pushed back came from Lisa, our former neighbor. She wrote, "Amber, we were all there. Don't rewrite the story now." Then came Corey, my oldest friend from college. You don't get to play the victim after what you did to him. And then Michelle, you told me yourself you were seeing someone else. Don't act surprised now that it caught up to you. One by one, the floodgates opened. Not insults. Not attacks. Just facts. Quiet, firm truths. Amber tried to respond at first. Deleting comments. Blocking people. Sending DMs to anyone who hadn't spoken up yet. Can I count on you to have my back? But the truth had traction. And it didn't need my help. I never posted a single word. Didn't defend myself publicly. Didn't correct her timeline. Didn't screenshot receipts. I just watched. Not with joy. Not with satisfaction. Just observation. The same way I'd watched her weeks ago, spinning her lies over candlelight chicken and wine she didn't even like. Eventually, she shut it all down. Her Facebook disappeared first. Then Instagram. Then the TikTok account she never really used anyway. Gone. And just like that, the carefully curated character she'd been building, the one who did everything she could, vanished with a tap of a button. I heard later she told someone at her yoga studio that she needed a social detox, that she was tired of negativity. But I knew what really happened. The mask cracked too wide, and there was no patching it. Amber had built her defense on performance, on pity, on selective truth, on curated vulnerability. But people saw through it. Because pain tells one story. But patterns? They tell the truth. And when people started comparing her words to her actions, the math didn't add up. So she disappeared. Not from the town. Not from the world. But from the space where she thought she could control the narrative. And what remained in that void was silence. The kind that doesn't beg to be fixed. The kind that sounds like consequence. It's been 6 months. Long enough for the dust to settle. Long enough for people to stop whispering and start forgetting. I still go to the same cafe every morning. Jackson Street. Same booth in the back, same chipped mug, same waitress who knows I take it black. Kelsey's graduated now, but the new girl, Erin, she's figured me out quick. Quiet guy, early riser, tips well, keeps to himself. And I like it that way. No more questions. No more pretending. Just me, a corner booth, and peace. One morning in early spring, Marcus slid into the seat across from me. Uninvited, but welcome. He had a grin on his face, the kind he wore when he had gossip he didn't want to admit was gossip. You hear about Amber? He asked, sipping from a paper cup like he was trying to sound casual. I didn't look up from my coffee. No. She's working out at her parents' place. That farm outside Mechanicsville. That made me pause. Amber, heels on gravel, city brunch, mock everything rural Amber, on a farm? Seriously? I said, raising an eyebrow. Dead serious. Apparently the job interviews dried up. Word got around. You know how people talk in Richmond. Every company she applied to either ghosted her or told her they'd keep her in mind. Guess those Instagram quotes didn't hold up in HR, I said. Marcus laughed. She's mucking stalls. Planting tomatoes. Her dad posted a photo of her holding a goat. A goat man. I gave a slow shake of my head. Not mockery. Not triumph. Just disbelief. Amber used to roll her eyes at her parents' farm. Said it was cute but outdated. Called it manual labor for people who peaked in high school. Now, it was the only place that would take her in. She still seeing that guy? I asked. Marcus shook his head. Nope. Word is, his wife found out everything and kicked him out. He tried reaching out to Amber after the fallout, but she shut him down. Didn't want to be tied to the wreckage. Figures. Amber always liked the illusion of control, but when things really burned, she jumped ship before admitting she lit the match. Anyway, Marcus said, standing, just thought you'd want to know. Small world. He clapped me on the shoulder, then headed for the counter to flirt with Erin. I stayed in the booth a little longer, staring out the window, watching the same morning sun pour over the sidewalk, the same rhythm of life moving on, unbothered, uncomplicated. And I smiled. Not because she fell, not because I won, but because I wasn't in it anymore. Because the storm passed, and I was still here, quiet, whole, unshaken. No rage, no fire. Just the slow, steady calm of a man who learned to stop chasing noise. I paid my bill, left a good tip, walked out the door with the same rhythm I'd found months ago. And as the wind picked up around me, I breathed in deep, grateful. Not for what happened, but for what didn't happen again. I never went back, and I never will. And that was the end of the story. I still think about the moment Amber tried to flip the truth and make me the villain, posting online, twisting the narrative, begging for sympathy when all she left behind was wreckage? If someone you cared about made a mistake like that, blamed others to protect themselves, would you have called them out, like our friends did? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and if you want more real stories like this, hit subscribe. I've got more to tell.